So Glory Denied is not just the story of Colonel Thompson, but also the story of his service and how his capture impacted his family. So in addition to Colonel Thompson, there's also his wife, Alice. In the book, she comes across to me as a little hard-edged, but in the opera, she is a little bit more sympathetic. How did you choose to present her as a character in the story?
Well, I wanted her to be a real person with real positives and real negatives. And it's interesting, you know, when people come to see the opera, often there's a gender divide at the end. The men all walk out and say, that woman's terrible. How could she have cheated on her husband when he was a prisoner of war? And the women walk out and say, I understand that woman. So when I wrote a particular aria for her called After You Hear Me Out in the second act of the opera. And I told myself, I'm gonna make this aria so beautiful, at least I'm gonna try. I'm gonna make this aria so beautiful that anybody hears it, they will say to themselves, I could have done that too. If I had 4 children, the last one born the day my husband was captured, I could have done that too. That was my goal. And I think, you know, in the Vietnam War, I think everybody did something they regret, no matter what side of the argument you were on. It was such a momentous time. And, you know, people who protested the war, they regret the way they treated the soldiers when they came. And people who prosecuted the war may say, do we have to lose that many men for a mistake? So there's so much to regret. There really is. If I could tell one story, Glory Denied was done by San Francisco Conservatory this past April. There's a moment in the opera where Colonel Thompson says, I forgive you. I forgive you, Alice. And Alice says, I don't give a hoot. She says, she doesn't say hoot. She uses an expletive. I don't give a. And sometimes when people hear this in the theater, they sort of laugh. Because they're not used to hearing anybody curse in an opera. So I'm in San Francisco where the conservatory is doing this great production. In front of me is an older woman, maybe in her 70s, and a young woman in her 20s next to her. That line comes, I don't give up, and sure enough, this woman laughs a little bit. I say, okay. The opera ends, they announce I'm the composer, they make me stand up so everybody knows who I am. The woman turns around and says to me, that was hard to listen to. I thought she was talking about the music or the style. I said, I'm sorry. She said, no, no. It had to be told. It was hard to listen to, but it had to be told. I was a nurse in Vietnam, she said. And then I said, I noticed you laughed in that part where the woman said, I don't give up. And she said, oh yeah. I knew that was coming, she said. Any woman around in those days with that kind of life, she'd have to tell that man off like that. And I thought, yeah, this is wonderful. And then the 20-year-old woman next to her said, that's my grandma. And the two of them left. It was, I think, the best comment I ever had about Glory Denied.